So I'm going to show you how to put thread on your bobbin. When you start sewing, you're going to need to put some of the thread from your main spool onto a bobbin, and these are 3 different bobbins from different types of machines. So if you have a computerized machine, you're going to want to use plastic bobbins because the metal ones can interfere with the magnet in the machine. So this one is a metal one, which I'll use for a different machine. And these two, this one's a class 15 and this one's a class 66. And you'll just have to check your manual to see which one your machine needs. You can see that the 66 has a bit of a curve on the top like that. For my machine, I'm going to use this one. It's a class 15. So we'll start by taking the thread off of the bottom of the spool. And if you can't get the end off, this is a cool trick. You can actually pull that piece out and then your thread's free. And this is how you wind it up at the end too, to keep it neat. So I'm going to take that thread out and put it on the post like this. You want to make sure that the bottom of the spool, where those little teeth are that grab the thread, that's on the right side. If I have it this way, then sometimes the thread can get snagged on that rough edge right there. So I want it like this, and I'm going to stick the little hat on to keep it on. And you may notice that your machine comes with different sized hats for different sized spools. So if it's a small spool, put a little hat. Okay, so now I'm gonna go over and you're gonna look for something like this on your machine. And I'm gonna slide the thread in between these 2 layers right here. And it's really important that you use 2 hands for this, because if I try to just wrap it around like that, it's not gonna get tucked in. You gotta floss it in like you're flossing your teeth. Pull it in tight. And now the thread's gonna go over this direction. And you can see on the top of my machine, I've got this little dotted line. So this is exactly what we're following right here. And now the thread's going over here, and this is when we need the bobbin. So here's the bobbin. If you look on the top, I've got 1 hole here, I've got some holes here. There isn't a correct top and bottom, it doesn't really matter, but whatever one I stick my thread out of, that's gonna be the top. So I'm gonna slide the thread from the middle section of the bobbin so that it comes out the top out of one of these holes like this. And I'm going to grab that so that it looks like this. So I'm going to show you something that people get wrong when they're doing this at first, and that is to slide the thread through the center like this. That's not going to work. And the other way is to slide it from the top like this. That's also not going to work. So what you want is to take that thread and have it slide from the middle like that. And now I'm going to stick it on this post. Push it all the way down. And this post moves back and forth. So I'm going to put it on the post and push it over this way. And you can see that I've got the thread here is taut. I don't have a lot of thread coming out, but I don't want this to be loose. I don't want it to be baggy. I want to keep it tight. Now I didn't turn my machine on yet, so I'm going to go down here and do that. There's a little switch, like a light switch on the side. Okay, so I flipped this over so you can see what happens when I push this over. Because my machine's computerized, it's ready to go. You can see it has a little picture of bobbin. It knows we're ready to wind a bobbin. So the only thing I have to do now is give my foot pedal a little bit of gas, and it's going to start to wind up. I'm going to go slowly at first, and you can see how the thread is starting to move down. I want it to wind at the top of the spool first, the top of the bobbin. So I'm just going to stick my finger right here and make sure it winds the top at first. That way I can make sure this thread is caught really nicely and I can cut it off now. So you can see how nice and neatly this is winding. Now that it's ready, I can just push fast and it will go. So if you're using your finger to guide it, just make sure you don't push it up too high, because it will start to wind up at the top, and that's going to mess up your bobbin a lot. And also it can sometimes, if your bobbin is not pushed all the way down, it might start to wind underneath around the post. So just watch out that it's pushed all the way down and that it's winding in the middle. And you can just let it go and do its thing once it's started. One question a lot of people have is, how do you know how much thread to put on your bobbin? So when you're first starting out, you'll probably put more thread than you need. But if you do run out of thread when you're sewing, you can always stop, refill it, and restart again. I'm gonna stop there, and now I'm gonna cut this. It's done. Okay, so I'm gonna show you what it looks like when you wind a bobbin on a machine that is not computerized. It's very, very similar, just a couple different things. So often the thread holder is vertical instead of horizontal. So this one's just pushed down. I'm gonna slide that on, and I'm gonna stick the thread in here exactly the same as with the other machine. Just make sure that it's flossed right in there and pulled tight. This is actually probably the main problem that people run into when winding their bobbin, is that they don't pull it in tight and they just kind of let it sit there like that, and then their bobbin will wind really, really loose. So you want to make sure that's pulled in tight. And this machine can take a class 15 bobbin. I can use either these metal class 15 ones or the plastic class 15. They're the same thing. I'm going to use this metal one. And I'm going to stick the thread from the center out one of the top holes. It doesn't matter which one. Push it onto the post. Just a little bit of thread sticking out the top. Make sure that this thread is nice and tight. Push the post over. And now before I start, I've got my machine turned on already, but I need to pull this button out. It just comes straight out like this. So this is releasing the clutch in the sewing machine so that rather than making the needle move up and down, it's just gonna wind the post right here. It's just gonna make the bobbin wind. And on some machines, it will be some version of this. For this one, I'm pulling it out, but sometimes you have to hold onto the outer ring and turn the inner ring towards you. So if you have a machine that has two circles, try that. Hold on to the outer one and just turn, you're sort of loosening it like you're loosening a bottle cap. You loosen that middle one towards you. This one's a pull out. So I'm gonna hold on to this, and now I'm gonna wind it the same as I did the other machine. Once it's wrapped around so that it's nice and tight and holding well, then you can just cut your thread off, and you can cut it right off at the top, because if you have thread dangling, then it can get caught in your bobbin later. And that's it.